Farhad, we certainly hope that oil exports can resume as soon as possible, but it's been a long time since March when oil exports were stopped. And we as one of the many oil companies in the Kurdistan region have noted, and also through the Association for Petroleum Industry in Kurdistan, APICUR, has noted in its press releases, we're ready to resume exports immediately. But at this point in time, it's clear that this is an easy commercial problem to solve, but that's the problem. It's not a commercial problem, it's a political problem. And we're hopeful that continued discussions between the Kurdistan region and Baghdad and with the oil companies can come up with a solution sooner than later. But it's been too long and everyone is suffering because of the stoppage.
So can USA play any kind of role between KRG and the Iraqi government about the resumption of oil and to solve this problem?
We have consistently said that the American government could play a significant role in managing and bringing together both sides for a timely resolution to the problem. Yes, absolutely. I think it's an incredible time to have this forum here in Kurdistan, and it's incredible to showcase the Kurdistan region of Iraq as one of the most stable places in the Middle East. Look, world leaders are coming from all over the world to come here to talk, despite all the conflict, despite all of the attacks in the region all around us. You have Tony Blair, Boris Johnson, officials from Asia, from the United States. We're all here in Kurdistan region of Iraq to talk about the key challenges that are facing not only the Kurds and Iraq, but also the entire Middle East. So I think we all have to be cognizant of the threats that any kind of escalation of the conflict in Israel could have on global oil supplies, because that could impact the Gulf of the Arabian Gulf, or it can impact the Mediterranean as well. But right now, we don't see that the conflict is expanding, but certainly it could. And if it does, then it could affect global oil supplies. And that's also why the Kurdistan region is so critically important. It produces 0.5% or 500,000 barrels of oil that is not on the market today, that is critically important for the Mediterranean, critically important for Europe, and that oil is not on the market. And it also is an alternative export route than the Strait of Hormuz, which could be closed off if tensions were to increase. So the world and the region needs the Iraqi-Turkey pipeline open because it's an alternative export route that could also help in the case of any kind of oil export stoppage elsewhere in the region.
Right.
I can't tell the future. All I can say is
your expectation.
It seems that the United States has deployed forces and signaled to Tehran that any escalation runs the risk of the Iranians' biggest proxies in the region, particularly Hezbollah, from being brought in, and a loss of Iranian influence. And I think Iran has decided that it's willing to sacrifice Hamas and sacrifice Gaza for their goals at the expense and without jeopardizing the Iranian position in Lebanon and Iraq and Syria. I think that's a very calculated decision they've made thus far, is to not bring itself into the conflict and suffer an even greater loss than it is now in Gaza. I think there's always a risk of conflict in Iraq when you have such a large military force, much of which answers to Tehran and to the IRGC. That's always going to be a potential for conflict. It seems to me today that the Hashid attacks against Americans and against the coalition have been limited, and they've been limited on purpose to avoid a further escalation of the conflict. But that could quickly change, and hopefully we don't see that change. But that's the risk that we have with Iraq in 2023, is it's very destabilized given the role of the Hashid throughout Iraq's institutions. I think it's critically important. I think it shows the world that, look, the United States and the world has experienced rising oil prices, almost reaching $100. And the United States and others have gone to the places where they think that they can get oil from, to include not enforcing sanctions on Iran, to lifting sanctions on places like Venezuela. And hopefully that attention can turn to Kurdistan, which is an American ally and friend and partner, to help it restore its oil exports and also to help restore its economic viability.